The clerk's sigh echoed across the nearly empty supermarket. "Ma'am, you're short." Emily's trembling fingers hovered over the counter as she pushed forward the last of her coins, quarters she had scraped from couch cushions, the bottom of her purse, even from her 6-year-old son's piggy bank. The baby formula sat on the conveyor belt, so close, yet so impossibly far. Her face flushed with shame as the line behind her grew restless. She whispered, almost to herself, "Please, this is all I have." Her infant daughter, Lily, squirmed in her car seat at her feet, hungry and crying. Emily's heart twisted. She had worked a 12-hour shift at the diner the night before, came home to a pile of bills, and still couldn't make it stretch. Every quarter was a reminder of how hard she was failing, at motherhood, at life, at everything. Behind her, an older man in a tailored suit watched silently. His silver watch glinted under the fluorescent lights, but his eyes, sharp and thoughtful, softened as he took in the scene. He leaned forward, his voice low, almost like a secret. "Put it on my card," he whispered to the cashier. Emily froze. She turned, startled, and found herself staring at a man who didn't belong in this little corner of town. His presence radiated wealth, control, and power, everything she didn't have. She stammered, "No, I can't let you do that." But he only smiled faintly, a smile that carried no pity, only understanding. "You can, and you will. A child should never go hungry." The clerk hesitated, then scanned the card. The machine beeped. The formula was paid for. Emily's eyes blurred with tears. "Why would you help me?" she asked. The man adjusted his cufflinks. "Because once upon a time, someone helped me when I had nothing." He picked up his briefcase, gave her a small nod, and walked away before she could ask his name. That night, Emily sat in her dimly lit apartment feeding Lily. Her mind replayed the scene again and again. Who was he? Why did he care? And why did his words echo in her heart, stirring something she hadn't felt in years, hope? Days passed, and Emily returned to her grueling routine. She waitressed through double shifts, carried Lily in her arms, and tried to keep her son's spirit alive when he asked why they didn't have the things other kids had. She never saw the stranger again. But his voice, calm and kind, stayed with her. One rainy evening, Emily walked home after work, her shoes soaked and her body aching. As she passed a large glass building downtown, she paused. The sign read, Harrison Industries. Her breath caught. On the giant banner was the man's face, the CEO, Richard Harrison. The man who had paid for her formula. Weeks later, fate brought them together again. Emily was delivering coffee to a catering event when she spilled a tray near the stage. Mortified, she bent to clean it, only to hear a familiar voice. "Don't worry, accidents happen." She looked up. It was him, Richard Harrison. His eyes widened with recognition. "It's you," he said softly. Emily's face burned with embarrassment. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." He stopped her gently. "Emily, right, the mother from the grocery store." Her lips parted. "You remembered, of course," he said. Then, after a pause, "Have you ever thought about doing more than waitressing?" She blinked. "What do you mean?" Richard studied her resilience, the way she carried herself even through exhaustion. "I run a training program at my company. For single parents. For people who just need someone to believe in them. You'd be perfect." Emily's throat tightened. No one had ever said she'd be perfect for anything. The months that followed were the hardest and the most rewarding of her life. Emily entered the program terrified, doubting herself every step. She learned computer skills, accounting, and customer service. She stayed up late after putting the kids to bed, studying until her eyes stung. There were nights she cried, convinced she couldn't do it. But every time she thought of giving up, she remembered the whisper at the grocery store, a child should never go hungry. With Richard's mentorship, Emily not only graduated but earned a stable job in his company's finance department. For the first time in years, she could pay rent on time, fill her fridge, and buy her son the soccer cleats he'd begged for. One evening, as she watched her children eat a full dinner without worry, she wept, not from despair, but from gratitude. Emily's journey didn't stop there. She began volunteering with other struggling mothers, sharing her story, helping them believe in themselves. "If I could climb out of rock bottom," she would say, "so can you." Richard remained in her life, not as a savior, but as a friend and mentor. And one day, as she thanked him again for what he had done, he shook his head. "You don't owe me thanks, Emily. Just promise me you'll do for others what was once done for you." And she did. Years later, Emily stood at a podium in a crowded hall. Her children, now older, sat proudly in the front row. She was being honored for founding a nonprofit that helped struggling single parents find stability and dignity. She scanned the crowd and saw Richard, smiling quietly in the back, his eyes glistening. Emily took a breath and said into the microphone, her voice steady yet emotional. Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness, just a whisper in a grocery store, can change the course of a life. It changed mine, and I'm here to prove that no matter how broken, how hopeless, or how impossible life feels, you are never truly alone. The room erupted in applause, but Emily's heart was focused only on the man in the back. The man who reminded her that kindness is not weakness, but strength, the kind of strength that lifts others. And so, the story that began with a mother counting quarters ended with a legacy of compassion. A whisper that turned into a movement, because one simple act of humanity had rewritten a family's future forever.